What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Toby, I do random things, and today we are doing part 3 of reading Journal 3. So let's get right into it. Now, from where we last left off, he was asking, what does it all mean? What is the unified theory of weirdness? I'm trying to find, that was this page. And now we're going to find out. The Muse has spoken. I awake after the longest slumber of my life with renewed energy and inspiration. My Muse, that strange whimsical creature who speaks to me in my dreams, has returned me at last, this time with an insight so brilliant it can only be described as divine intervention. All this time I've been looking for some common behavior to connect these anomalies, but what if they all share is the history? A history that exists beyond our world, in another realm, a dimension of weirdness. What if these various different creatures all leaked from their dimension into ours, and the leak is right here in Gravity Falls? If I could locate and puncture this weak dimensional fiber and record proof of the dimension beyond, I would have my grand unified theory of weirdness. It is an idea so pure and powerful, I never could have thought of it on my own. Sometimes I cannot believe how lucky I am to have come across my blessed Muse. How many other great historical minds has his brilliance inspired? Is he even real, or just a part of my fickle imagination? No matter, his insight is surely real, as are the blueprints he left me for a portal to another dimension. A triangular superstructure will best absorb the operating force. The purist in me wants to build the machine from scratch, but given my time and financial constraints, it does not seem feasible. I will need to borrow certain elements from the resource I have turned to in years past for my more ambitious projects. Seismic readings indicate that crash site Omega is still geologically stable enough for the removal of large amounts of material, but if my initial calculations are correct, then I may need to remove whole pieces of machinery and damage the actual hull. Further study is needed before I shall proceed. The instructions to power this will be far too dangerous to put in one place. I may need to separate them throughout my journals to be safe. The enormity of this task begins to overwhelm me. July 18th. The design of the machine has hit a roadblock. My own embarrassingly limited mechanical knowledge. Why did I stop taking hyper-advanced engineering and fifth-dimensional calculus after only 3 semesters? For what? To treat myself to that second semester of applied quantum phase theory? Well, this is where all my slacking off has landed me. I have no choice. I must call up my old classmates and beg him to join me. He is the only person I trust enough to share this undertaking. I must persuade him to harness his mechanical genius in service to this project, or else abandon my machine entirely. It has been a while since I've talked to another person. I should probably shower. July 20th. Success! He has agreed to join me. With his assistance, I am confident we can complete the machine. He has already made several suggestions over the phone that I intend to incorporate into my new designs. July 29th. I am overcome with emotion. The sight of my old classmate upon my doorstep this morning filled my heart with such joy and gratitude. He has sacrificed so much to come to my aid. He has temporarily left his bride and their young son behind in California for the duration of this project. He has abandoned his own professional aspirations, although he has brought along a prototype of his pet project to fiddle with in his off hours. After all these years of self-imposed solitude, how wonderful it is to have a friend by my side. I must do my best to make him feel at home. I am off to the store for some banjo strings and microchips. The past few days have been the most energizing I've had since I first came to this town. I don't think I realized just how isolated I'd become until F arrived, and his brilliant mind and amusing quirks have made this task infinitely more enjoyable. Want to know what else is interesting? The fact that he's saying that he's not using his full name, he's just saying F. That must mean he's hiding something. Interesting. Not a fan of his chewing tobacco habit. He grew up on a hog farm, so I suppose old vices die hard. He even occasionally handbones on his knees when he's counting in his head. I could put up with these quirks, but I told him if I ever see a pig in the house, I'm sending him back south. I double check my equations. He quintuple checks. I keep scrambling this Rubik's Cube on his desk when he's not looking, and he keeps solving it without hesitation. I think it would make him crazy to see it unsolved for more than 2 seconds. I'm thinking of modifying it to be unsolvable just to see the look on his face. Today, while reviewing our portal blueprints and debating the latest fashion trend of leg warmers, F asked me an odd question. He said that the plans of these blueprints were unbelievably complex, and he wondered if anyone else had helped me come up with the idea. I internally debated whether I should tell him about my muse. F is a very superstitious man. He crosses himself when he walks over graves, and chastises me for saying, "What the devil?" Although I have always wanted to tell someone about my divine experience, I worry that he might think I've gone mad all these years in seclusion, or worse, that I'm tangled in some kind of unsavory black magic. No matter, I told him that with hard work anything is possible, and gave him a stack of calculations to quintuple check. Some secrets are best kept that way. It occurs to me that if I must keep secrets from F, I might as well begin writing certain passages of this book in code. I aced cryptology in college, so this will be fun, at least for me. It would be deeply tedious and annoying for someone to try to decipher it. It amuses me to think of their frustrating effort. Today, F came to me in a panic. I could tell he's agitated when his knee is bouncing, and today his KPBS, knee bounce per second, was off the charts. He said that powering my portal design would require a temporal displacement hyperdrive, and that by his calculations, humanity wouldn't be able to invent one of those for another 10,000 years. Imagine his surprise when I told him I knew just where we could get such a device. I decided it was time to tell him about Crash Site Omega. I sat him down and told him his entire life was about to change, and delivered the news. F's reaction did not disappoint. He was in such shock that he pulled out some of his own hair. I do worry about his tendency toward anxiety. I may need to train him in my advance of more forms of meditation in the future. When he finished wrapping his mind around the concept and pacing the length of the lab, he became very excited. Apparently, he's had an interest in this subject ever since his cousin Thistlebert claimed that his grandma was taken by them saucer people. Thistlebert did not have his cousin's intellect. So it's settled. We've decided to take a 2-day hike up to the entrance of CSO to unearth the hyperdrive and use it to power our portal. I've already begun packing for the trip. Magnet gun. Modified from tech previously found at CSO. Will be necessary to scramble security. Must be careful not to point at the sky. Don't want another downed helicopter incident. Compass. Pioneers thought Gravity Falls was haunted because their compasses went haywire the moment they entered the valley. I know better. Every compass in a 100-mile radius points to the crash site. Once it spins wildly, you've reached the epicenter. Day 1. There is nothing quite like a lungful of fresh Oregon air to set one's spirit skyward. We spent the morning hiking up the granite pass to the lake, where my secret shortcut through the mountain is located. I remember in my youth I hated physical activity, but since my college years I've developed a rigorous daily physical and mental workout. I love Tesla, but if I look as emaciated as him when I'm in my 70s, shoot me with a death ray. If only my assistant had an exercise regimen like mine. Only one morning and he's already winded. He took a breather around midday and could be heard grumbling about wanting to invent a pair of robotic legs while he ate his sandwich. He even drew a diagram in the dirt with a stick. While he snacked, his breadcrumbs attracted a rather curious creature, the platypus, who looks like this. This bizarre red and black checkered beast waddled out of the brush unexpectedly for a bite of F's sandwich. I've heard folklore of these creatures, the source of all lumberjacks' jackets, but assumed it was just a local legend, like the one clean truck stop bathroom. In fact, they are very real and, oddly enough, smell like maple syrup and bacon. A perfect flannel patterned coat covers its entire bodies. Young ones are groomed to start with horizontal stripes and only acquire vertical ones once they reach maturity. Highly sought after the locals. Island head beast. Yet another startling discovery at the lake. One of these boulders was in fact an enormous human-like tooth. There was evidence of nerve tissue on the root, plus crushed mollusks, fish bones, and a broken wristwatch at the crown. My assistant used a chisel and some dental floss to break free a few pieces as I puzzled over a theory. In my past observations, I have noticed that one of the lake's islands seemed to be in a different location every morning. My conclusion is that this island is some kind of living creature and the owner of the tooth. Could it be that this serene mountain lake contains a genuine submerged Lovecraftian horror? I will have to return to investigate at a later date. Despite this bone-chilling thought, I couldn't help but enjoy the scenery. There is no place in Gravity Falls I'd rather be than the lake. It reminds me of my childhood in Glass Shard Beach. Secret tunnel behind Trembly Falls. We passed through the secret pass in the lake, a hidden tunnel behind Trembly Falls, and arrived right in the center of the mountain. The townsfolk seem wholly unaware of this system of ancient tunnels and caves, which appears to have been dug by a native populace before recorded history. Who or what they are hiding from remains a mystery, although their cave paintings may provide answers. Several hours of tunneling deep through the mountain, and disaster struck. Our lantern went out. I knew we should have brought flashlights, but in my foolish nostalgia, I brought this worthless Civil War era piece of junk. Worst of all, we were in complete blackness and I couldn't restart it. Leave it to me to bring a magnet gun but no matches. As my assistant and I were arguing about what to do, we discovered that a strange living mineral was watching us with glowing eyes. 7 more pairs of glowing eyes appeared in the dark. I believe we have discovered an entirely new classification of organisms, geodites. These creatures resemble living geodes. They make high-pitched chirping and humming sounds and amble about on clinking crystal legs. When I picked one up, it sang a baby-pitched little song, attracting several more of these creatures who began inexplicably dancing about. Because they give off a faint glow, I suggested F that we try to gather them in a pile and use their light to lead us out of the tunnel. He had a better idea. He picked up 2 of them and banged them together, creating a spark that reignited our lantern. They all shrieked at the sky to fire and scampered away. One bit my finger and drew blood. Luckily, this spark was all we needed to leave the bizarre cavern and continue on our way. Excuse me. Finally, we reached the top of Gravity Peak and made camp for the night. As we stared up at Gravity Falls' beautiful and strange constellations, we found ourselves discussing our future as if we were back in our old college dorm. F said that once our project was complete and he moved back to California, his dream was to become an independent inventor, patenting robotics that would improve people's lives. Plus, after growing up dirt poor in Tennessee, he fantasized about making enough to afford a nice place with a screen door that wasn't broken. I could relate to his ambition. I discussed my dreams of proving my theory. I could finally leave Gravity Falls, return home to the East Coast, and publish my findings to the world. I'd be the toast of the scientific community, rubbing elbows with presidents and prize winners, and debating politics with Reagan, and discussing turtlenecks fashion tips with Carl Sagan. Imagine the look on the dean of West Coast Tech's face when he saw that the student he refused was now the next Einstein. Imagine how proud my family and hometown would be when the freak would return a hero. F seemed puzzled by the scope of my plans. I had already discovered so many amazing things and recorded them in the journals. Was this grand theory even necessary? Why not publish now, settle down, maybe meet someone and start a family? I laughed at the thought. Romance was far more baffling to me than the greatest mysteries of the universe. And more importantly, once Gravity Falls is revealed to the world, it would surely create a weirdness rush of scientists flocking to the town. If I don't discover the theory first, surely one of them will, and my name will be lost to the history books. It hasn't been an easy path, but I prefer the road less traveled anyway. Although I confided in F that I was grateful to be traveling with a friend. I awoke the next morning to the sound of screaming, which in Gravity Falls is more common than you might think. Apparently, F had been up early shaving. The speed of his facial hair growth is a mystery of its own, when he spied something menacing standing behind his reflection in the creek. But when he turned around to smack the intruder with his banjo, it was gone. Strange things are always found in this hidden past. As I surveyed the camp, I felt a hard tapping on my neck. I whipped around in a panic, but found that there was nothing there. An eerie gust of wind carried my gaze to an ancient moss-covered wooden sign on which was carved a strange poem. In the corner of your eye, a man appears to lean, but when you turn to meet his stare, he's nowhere to be seen. Hide your lumber, clutch your axe, and turn your lanterns out. Best to watch your back, my friends, the hide-behind's about. I'd heard enough lumberjack lore to know we were in the presence of the hide-behind. Legends describe it being with an impossible ability to hide before it is seen. But what is he? A ghost, a living shadow, or just a malnourished peeping Tom with a fear of eye contact? A strange howl echoed through the air as F and I packed up quickly and quietly and walked backwards out of camp. I told F to keep his shaving mirror handy and look back just in case. I may return to this camp one day once the hairs on my neck finally stand down. One moment. What a relief to be out of the forest. The wild spinning of my compass told me we had nearly reached our destination, but I saw something very strange when we got there. Sleepily munching on the grass was a herd of cattle with the strangest spot patterns I had ever seen. Cow circles. Is this a code, a language, or some intergalactic teenager's idea of a prank? Circles, spirals, and designs of otherworldly mathematical precision code them from horns to hooves. Eyes unusually dilated, as if staring at an intensely bright light. Does this mean what I think it means? I wonder what he thinks it means, then. The bucket of milk nearby seemed to emit a low hum. I told F not to drink it. He did anyway. Can't take the farm out of him. Staring directly at them makes me oddly dizzy. One chewed on my book. From a distance, it appeared that the patterns on these beasts were in some way linked. Could arranging the cows reveal a giant message? Unfortunately, such investigations would have to wait, as we had arrived at last at our destination. Crash Site Omega. The site looked exactly the same as I had left it 2 years ago, referenced in Journal 2, with the ladder I had constructed leading down the indefinite exhaust port. F was so excited when he saw that he spit out the tainted milk. We descended into the abyss together. What a pleasure it was to share one of my greatest secret discoveries with another brilliant mind. As we journeyed through the wreckage, I could see F filled with the very same awe I felt when I first came upon the site. I will say that I am cautious to record too much about CSO here. If the wrong people discovered what is buried, it could be catastrophic. The last thing I want is a close encounter with the government. Fortunately, with F's mechanical know-how and my keen intuition, we were at last able to locate the hyperdrive. We recovered the drive and stored it snugly in F's backpack. What a good feeling it was to complete our mission. Very soon, both our scientific ambitions would be fulfilled. My muse was right. Sometimes all genius needs is a little help from a friend. Emboldened by our success, we tromped down a shortcut through the mountain, talking excitedly about the future. Winding through the cliffs, we passed a skeleton of a massive species of pterosaur, bigger than anything known to science. Still, the bones appear not to be... Stranger still, the bones appeared to not be fossilized. F cowered at the sight of its massive jaws. I'm constantly surprised by his childlike fear in the face of some of the anomalies of this town. When we were about to continue down the mountain, when I saw one of the most rare beasts of Gravity Falls, and just my luck, it was asleep in our path. F begged for me not to disturb it, but I know from experience that they are incredibly heavy sleepers. In theory, even a novice could capture and cage one without it ever awakening from its hibernation. I couldn't miss a chance to creep up and do a detailed sketch of the Gremloblin. Half gremlin, half goblin. Proof that some creatures should not interbreed. See Leprechaun and the Weremaid in Journal 1. It's hard to look at it, and even hard to say its name 3 times fast. The creature is even uglier up close than I had expected. As I was sketching, my assistant became increasingly agitated. He cowered behind a tree and pleaded for me to move along. Just as I was telling him not to worry, the hyperdrive, which I thought had been inactive, emitted an ear-piercing alarm from F's backpack. Perhaps the altitude-based change in air pressure kick-started it. The Gremloblin awoke with a start, grabbed my assistant with his enormous claws, and stared intensely into F's eyes. I was impressed to get such an amazing view of the elusive creature, but now was not the time for sketching. Hoping to startle the beast, I hurled my canteen at him, splashed it with water. A word of advice to future readers. When fighting a Gremloblin, use water. Only as a last resort, as water will make it much, much scarier. He mutated before my eyes, and with a mighty heave of his wings, took flight down the mountain with my assistant in his grasp. I sprinted down the cliffside after the creature, tearing my coat and scraping myself bloody, watching helplessly as the monster flew further into the distance. It was clear that I was going to lose F forever if I didn't think fast, so I whipped out my magnet gun, pointed it at the hyperdrive still cradled in F's arms, and with a magnetic rush was pulled 50 feet up through the air onto the Gremloblin's back. One hard blow to the back of the head with my gun and he was out cold. He careened down through the air, taking me and F with him. Unnecessary gamble. We crashed through a barn roof and were fortunate enough to land in a soft cushioning hayloft. The Gremloblin was knocked out, and the startled horses began to calm down. The hyperdrive was thankfully in an empty trough, safe and sound. F, however, was far worse for wear. He seemed utterly panicked by what he had experienced, and was in such a babbling state of terror he didn't even seem to notice that his own arm was broken and pierced in several places with the Gremloblin's venomous quills. I immediately took him home for treatment. Great news! The hyperdrive works! Clearly the civilized beings who created this technology were far better engineers than they were pilots. Although I can't help but wonder, who is truly the more advanced species? The one who works 1,000 years to invent technology, or the one who simply waits for the other to crash and then collects it for free? Unfortunately, the hyperdrive requires highly radioactive materials to stay powered, but I was able to raid a government waste dump nearby with ample materials. Frankly, it's worrisome that these barrels would be buried so close to town. I'm doing a public service by removing them. Despite our fortune, I have become worried about my assistants. I was able to treat his physical wounds, but I fear there are mental wounds not as easily remedied. For the past several nights, he has been unable to sleep, apparently still haunted by the Gremloblin's gaze. More alarming is his Kubik's Cube. It has sat scrambled, unfixed on his desk for days. I myself have survived many monster attacks without trauma, but perhaps F is more sensitive than I realized. I spent the afternoon teaching F some of my meditation techniques and a heart rate slowing exercise I learned to help control fear. F seemed skeptical, but I reminded him that we are scientists, and that by using our creativity we can solve any problem we face, even our fears. My assistant took my advice in the worst possible way. Today he ran up to me beaming and said he had spent all night working on a solution to his anxiety. He produced this unsettling device. Apparently, it can target and destroy bad memories, including his frightening memory of the Gremloblin. The memory gun. I didn't hesitate to let F know that despite his good intentions, this device was far too dangerous to keep. The temptation for misuse was catastrophic. For all I know, he's already used the ray on me before. He was crestfallen by my advice, but after some discussion, he came to see the wisdom in it. He said that he didn't want to risk forgetting his life son. I ordered him to destroy the gun, and he did. At least I think he did. I can't quite remember. The carnival. In order to get F's mind off his recent trauma, I decided it was time to take a break from our project. Fortunately, I read in the newspaper that Mama Misfortune's traveling carnival and freak show was in town for the day. Although I loathe the nickel-grubbing circuses and sideshows, I was swindled enough as a kid on the boardwalk. I've learned that every so often there's something real mixed in the fakes that is worth studying. This means new discoveries for me, and a day of relaxation for my poor, beleaguered assistant. Sure enough, he was ecstatic at the prospect of watching pig races and eating kettle corn, and very soon we were on our way. He's already began playing with his Rubik's Cube again. This will do him some good. My excitement turned out to be short-lived. The first beast I encountered was literally a chicken duct taped to a silverback gorilla. A plaque called it the Gorican. There was no explanation given for the wizard hat it wore, merely a sign reading, cash only. Shockingly, the townsfolk seemed delighted, and I could barely get past the throng to the front of the line. This town is the most gullible people on earth. Someone with no ethics can make money hand over fist in Gravity Falls. Interesting. That's where we're going to end for the day, my friends. Thank you for watching. This one was a little longer than the other ones, and that's going to be a recurring theme for the next chapters. But I do appreciate you watching, and let me know in the comments if you want to see what video ideas you want me to do in the future. I do need to finish this series, but I would love to hear some feedback about what I should do in the future. And as always, remember you're cool. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.